Hello, I'm Meghna, consulting dietitian at Akkineni Hospitals. Let's take a look at some important insights today. Please stay engaged and make notes.
Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're going to absolutely dismantle everything you thought you knew about weight loss. If you've ever felt completely frustrated, exhausted, or just kind of confused by the endless cycle of dieting, well, you are in the exact right place. We're starting right at the foundation today by unpacking why your past attempts were practically destined to fail and how science actually offers a much better, much more sustainable way forward. So let's just dive right in. If you're listening to this, you've probably tried a strict diet, right? You saw some initial success, and then you watch the weight just creep right back on, usually bringing a few extra kilos along with it. And what happens next? You blame yourself. You think, I just lack discipline. But honestly, if you've regained weight after a restrictive diet, it is not a failure of your willpower, not at all. It's a fundamental failure of the method, and it's literally the result of your own biology fiercely fighting back to protect you.
And that brings us to a really fascinating scientific concept, metabolic adaptation. See, your body cannot tell the difference between you intentionally cutting calories to look good for a wedding and an actual life-threatening famine. There's this famous New England Journal of Medicine study that tracked contestants from a weight loss reality show for 6 years after they lost a massive amount of weight. And the results? Completely staggering. Extreme crash diets triggered this powerful survival response. Their resting metabolic rates plummeted. Even years later, their hunger hormones were persistently high, and the hormones that tell you you're full were just flat out depressed. Your body actively fights to get back to its previous weight, and honestly, it usually wins.
So today, we're mapping out a completely different approach, one that actually works with your biology instead of going to war against it. We're going to cover the crash diet trap, reclaiming the Indian diet, the actual science of sustainability, why principles beat rigid plans, and finally, setting realistic expectations.
All right, part 1, reclaiming the Indian diet and why traditional is just flat out better. You know the drill. You walk into a gym in Vijayawada or frankly any major Indian city today and you'll hear the exact same really damaging myth. They'll tell you that traditional Indian food is incompatible with weight loss. They want you to ditch your culturally connected foods and swap them out for expensive oats, protein shakes, and sad boiled chicken. But that advice is completely unnecessary. And let's be real, it's basically torture. It leads to eating patterns that you just can't maintain long-term because you're stripping away the exact foods your digestive system and your culture have adapted to over generations.
The truth is, traditional Indian meals, the ones from before the processed food revolution, are absolute powerhouses for weight management. Take dal. Whether it's tur, moong, or masoor, it's packed with plant protein, slow-digesting carbs, and tons of fiber. Sabzi, made with traditional leafy greens and gourds, it gives you massive volume to keep you full for hardly any calories. Millets like jowar and ragi have been eaten for thousands of years and are phenomenally micronutrient-dense. And yes, even rice. When you eat it in appropriate portions and balance it with protein and fibrous veggies, rice produces a very moderate, totally normal insulin reaction. A bowl of dal with roti and sabzi isn't the obstacle, it's actually the solution.
So, if our traditional food isn't making us gain weight, what in the world is? Well, the problem isn't your grandmother's cooking. The real culprits are the modern habits we've picked up over the last few decades. We're talking about way too much refined oil, 24/7 ultra-processed snacking, sugary sodas, swapping out whole grains for maida, and the complete collapse of regular meal timing because of our crazy urban schedules.
Moving right along to Section 2, the science of sustainability, where thermodynamics actually meets our daily habits.
Okay, I want you to think about this massive protein gap. While a calorie deficit is definitely necessary for fat loss, not all calories trigger the same biological response in your body. Protein is practically magic here. It preserves your metabolism-boosting muscle, it keeps you incredibly full, and your body actually burns more calories just trying to digest it. But the average Indian diet falls massively short. Most adults are only getting about 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. The optimal intake for sustainable weight loss, it's double that, around 1.2 to 1.6 grams. Closing this gap with things like dal, paneer, curd, eggs, or fish at every meal is literally one of the highest impact changes you can possibly make.
Next up is that magic number,
25 to 38. That is the grams of fiber you need daily to manage your blood sugar, keep yourself full, and feed all that beneficial gut bacteria. But most Indian adults only hit about 10 to 15 grams a day. The fix here isn't running out to buy some expensive, gritty fiber supplement. You just need to close the gap with traditional whole foods. Load up on more fibrous vegetables, legumes, fruits, and whole grains.
Now this one is a real game changer, and it's a silent saboteur that derails so many diets: sleep. Research from the University of Chicago shows that just a few nights of bad sleep completely spikes your hunger hormone, ghrelin, and crashes your fullness hormone, leptin. Because of this hormonal chaos, sleep-deprived people eat an average of 300 to 500 extra calories a day. And you're usually craving high-carb, high-fat junk, right? Worse still, when you diet without sleeping properly, your body actually prefers to burn your muscle instead of your fat. No way! And right next to sleep is stress. Chronic stress just pumps out cortisol. High cortisol drives fat storage straight to your belly, spikes your appetite, and promotes insulin resistance. So, managing your stress through physical activity, proper rest, or just hanging out with friends, that isn't some luxury self-care buzzword. It is an absolute medical necessity if you want to lose weight sustainably.
Section 3. Principles over plans and some brilliant behavioral tweaks.
Look, a super strict diet plan that you can only follow for 2 weeks does absolutely nothing but mess up your metabolism. We need lifelong behavioral tweaks. Here's an amazing, actionable one: the food sequencing hack. Clinical studies show that if you literally just change the order in which you eat your food, eating your fibrous sabzi first, your protein-rich dal second, and your roti or rice last, you can slash your post-meal blood sugar spikes by a whopping 20 to 37%. It's a tiny little tweak with a massive metabolic impact.
So instead of stressing over rigid calorie counting apps, try internalizing these daily non-negotiables. Eat your 3 meals at consistent times to regulate your biological clock. Anchor every meal with protein and veggies first. Try to cook at home, because restaurant food is usually swimming in extra unseen oils. And this is a big one: eliminate liquid calories. Just 3 cans of soda dump over 420 calories into your day and leave you completely starving. Swap them out for water, plain chai, or chess. Finally, just get moving. 45 minutes of brisk walking a day does wonders for lowering cortisol and improving your insulin sensitivity.
Which brings us to our final section, setting realistic expectations for long-term success.
Let's be honest, we've all been conditioned to want instant results. We want to wake up, step on that bathroom scale, and see magic happen. But super fast weight loss usually just means you're losing muscle, adapting your metabolism, and setting yourself up for a massive rebound. The real, evidence-based reality, the one any good clinical professional will tell you, is aiming for half a kilo to 1 kilo of fat loss per week. And remember, it's never going to be a perfectly straight line down.
You really have to break up with your daily scale obsession. The scale fluctuates wildly based on water, salt, and hormones. True success is all about your body composition. Think about it. If you lose 2 kilos of fat, but you build 1 kilo of metabolism-boosting muscle, the scale only says you lost 1 kilo. But internally, biologically, you've just achieved an absolute metabolic victory.
And this is exactly why downloading a generic diet off the internet is basically a recipe for disaster. As the research highlights, there's a huge difference between a cookie-cutter diet chart and a genuinely personalized assessment. This is why working with real clinical dietitians, like the teams over at Akkineni Hospitals, is so crucial. They actually look at your specific blood work, your medical history, your busy lifestyle, and your rich cultural food context to build a plan that you can actually stick to.
So I want to leave you with this one thought to chew on. What if the exact foods you were told to abandon all these years, the dal, the sabzi, the rice, are literally the tools you need to finally win at this? It's time to stop fighting your own biology. It's time to reclaim your traditional foods, prioritize your protein, guard your sleep, and embrace a path that you can actually sustain. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this completely changes how you look at your very next meal. So the only question left is, what are you going to put on your plate tomorrow?